I'd like to welcome everyone here that joined us here today for the WiRE Webinar 3. And today's webinar is all about mentoring kickstart. You want to really learn about a whole variety of mentoring aspects today because you're already a woman leader, you're already an entrepreneur giving advice, or you want to become a woman who want to give advice, provide mentoring, etc. But Tara is going to take us through all the steps today, not only to do that, and to make sure that you reflect on yourself, how you're doing with your mentoring role, your current mentoring role, and where you want to go with your mentoring. But she's also going to talk about the mentoring within the WiRE program. So welcome everyone. I am very excited that you all joined us today, and really excited also to work with you, hopefully in the future, with the WiRE program. My name is Rita Weissner, and I'm from the University of Southern Queensland, and I sit in the Australian Centre for Sustainable Business and Development. I'm the Program Director of the WiRE program, and we have all these wonderful webinars that we're presenting in the next number of weeks till the end of the year, and then also into next year. We have online workshops, we have our hub program coming up, and just so many activities. So can I just urge you to please go to www.wireprogram.com to subscribe to the program so you can keep up to date with all our activities. I would like to also mention that for today's webinar, we have the Queensland Government actually supporting this webinar as well through the Advancing Women in Business initiative. This particular initiative encourages and support more women to start and grow their own businesses by facilitating and strengthening connectivity between the Queensland Government and women's groups across the state and amongst women networking groups, effectively engaging women in offers of small business activities such as grants, events and mentoring, boosting women as mentors on the Mentoring for Growth program, and ensuring the tools, skills and opportunities needed by women are available as part of the Office of Small Business Activities. So in reality, we also obviously as a part of the WiRE program, which is overall sponsored by the Department of Industry, Science and Innovation. So I just would like to thank very much our sponsors for this webinar today. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is just to talk a little bit about logistics. So the webinar will take approximately about an hour with 10 minutes including in there for any questions. If you have a look at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A little button there. You can ask some questions there, but you will also see a chat button so you can send some messages through to myself and I can pass it on to Tara as presented today. The webinar will be available to view after the webinar on the WiRE program website, and once again the address there is there for our website, and it will probably be available in about 5 days. Usually doesn't take that long, but around about 5 days. And if you've registered for this webinar, obviously we will also send you an email and with a link and say where you can actually go and view this webinar again. Okay, I would really like today to welcome and thank Tara Nevin for joining us today. Tara Jacobson Nevin, that's her full professional name. She's an experienced entrepreneur, she's a business strategist, she's a facilitator, collective leadership specialist, and she has over 20 years experience in applying strategy to corporate learning and development, education, business growth and organisational development. She's an expert in human and social capital development, and Tara uses new insights into providing a strategic approach to building and executing social capital solutions to build more productive, resilient and change agile teams, organisations and communities. She has been very, very active as a mentor in the regional space, especially in central Queensland. So she's a really, really good fit for the WiRE program, and she's also currently a project officer on the WiRE program itself. She's currently also she's had previous businesses. She's already have another business, but she's currently just started a new business called 1,000 Invisible Threads, and she can be found on Facebook at 1,000 invisible threads. And this particular startup of hers connect those ties and support the development of social capital value for leaders, teams, communities, and organizations. And she's actually doing currently a PhD here with USQ as well on the area of social capital within rural, regional, and remote context for female women entrepreneurs. So a wonderful fit for our program, and we're really looking forward to learning from you today, Tara, and to hear what you've got to tell us all about mentoring, leading us into that topic area, because there's 2 in-depth workshops coming up, which I'll be talking about a little bit later on in this webinar. I'd like to hand over to you now.
Thanks, Rita. Always like hearing those bios. I sound exhausted hearing them sometimes. All right, so hi everybody. I am so excited to be part of this program, and I think, as I said, as Rita said, I've been involved with a lot of programs involving rural women, and particularly around mentoring. And I think this is one of the most outcome-orientated, productive programs I've actually been a part of, and we'll share with you some of the way that the WiRE program is structured, and particularly in relation to mentoring a little bit later on. So just so we can get started, some of the things that we'll be covering today. So as Rita mentioned, this is the first in the series of 3. So this is actually just a general overview webinar, looking at mentoring in general and what that might mean, and also how that relates specifically to the WiRE program. We will have 2 following workshops, which are going to be way more interactive and much more conversational, which is, generally my preferred style of facilitating. So I'm looking forward to those sessions, and you'll actually get a workbook with that workshop that we will work through and actually take more of a deep dive into some of the concepts that we're actually talking about today. So they'll be much more involved and conversational, those sessions. So what we're looking at in this webinar is specifically what is mentoring. The mentoring on the WiRE program is slightly different to maybe some experiences you've had in mentoring before, where you may have worked in corporate environments where mentoring has actually been part of a structured approach. You may have been part of an informal mentoring network, particularly if you're in networking groups in your rural and regional areas. And mentoring can happen formally and informally. And you may have also been a coach or been part of a coaching program as well previously. So we're sort of just going to look at, well, what's out there, what happens around mentoring and coaching, and what we mean when we talk about mentoring from a WiRE program perspective. We're going to look at the benefits of mentoring, understanding the roles and responsibilities of a mentor. And the big why. If anybody has ever watched any of the Simon Sinek videos about your why, and we will look at more of that in the workshops. But why do you want to be a mentor, and the kind of the outcomes and the purpose of actually being a mentor. Look at some guidelines and some outlines into some intentions that we're actually looking to achieve with the mentoring program and the WiRE program, and also what support you get. Before I get started, I just wanted to make a mention about the link that this has got in terms of a bit of a why. So some statistics that actually came out of some of the research that Dr. Rita did prior to the WiRE program was that there's only 1 in 4 startups in Australia are actually founded by women. And yet women are a big part of, and particularly startups and entrepreneurial growth is actually one of the main things that actually power the Australian economy currently and actually into the future. Women work very well collaboratively, and so this mentor piece is a very big part of the success of this program and the success of the participants on the program as well. One of the things that they have noticed, particularly the Queensland Government program, which is the Mentor for Business Growth program, which is currently running, and actually the mentors from this program have an opportunity to potentially be mentors on that program, is that there's less than about 20% of those mentors for the Mentor for Business Growth are actually women. So, it's a really big thing that a lot of women don't step into that role. Obviously, women mentor informally a lot anyway, but in terms of taking on a formal, more structured approach to mentoring, the percentage of women doing that is actually quite small. So we're hoping in this little webinar to actually motivate and inspire some women to take on that role in a more formal mentoring experience as part of the WiRE program, and potentially on from that into the Queensland Government program. There's a significant shortage of women mentors around. Most of the mentors I've had have been male in my career. I'm not sure if you reflect on that, you might find the same thing. Well, at least my formal mentors anyway. So we hope that we can inspire you through this webinar to make that choice to come and join us on this journey. So what's the WiRE program? The WiRE program, Rita has mentioned a little bit about that. If you've got on the website and had a look, you'll see that the whole point of the design of the WiRE program was to actually promote entrepreneurial behaviour for women in remote and rural areas and regional areas through enhancing their own individual and organisational awareness, participation skills, competencies, capacity. And one of the key things is the sharing of knowledge and growing resilient communities. So that's why I'm really excited to be part of that from the PhD perspective, and actually look at some of the key outcomes that actually occur from building this type of program and this sharing of knowledge, and ultimately creating sustainable change in the Queensland region through this program. So here's one of the really cool things about this program. So as you may have experienced in the past with some of the mentoring systems, mentoring programs, formal or informal, that you've been part of, what's unique about the WiRE program is it has this 4-dimensional mentoring ecosystem. And in my experience, a lot of the mentoring programs I've been part of has predominantly been in that top sort of right square, which is, mentor to mentee. Whilst it can be two-way, it's predominantly a one-way approach. What's unique about the WiRE mentoring ecosystem is it is 4-dimensional. So because most of the mentoring, or predominantly the mentoring, will be occurring as part of a group, there will be opportunities for one-on-one mentoring, either from mentor, hub facilitated to mentor, and also obviously from mentor to mentee. But ultimately where the mentoring is going to exist within these groups, within the hubs, is because it's group-orientated process, we're going to be getting mentoring just peer-to-peer. So within each hub, there'll be possibly about six people that a hub mentor would actually be mentoring within a larger group, and the larger group is mentored by the hub facilitator. I know it sounds very confusing, but ultimately it's what's going to create a very dynamic, rich opportunity to connect into a significant brains trust. So you'll get the peer-to-peer. Hopefully some of you guys on this webinar will choose to take on the hub mentor role. So you'll be mentoring a group of 6 people on the hub. So obviously you as a hub mentor will also be able to provide mentoring to the mentees within that group. The third dimension is actually through the hub facilitator, and myself and another wonderful lady, Joy, as well as Rita, are going to be the hub facilitators. There's 3 separate times it's going to run for this first hub. So your hub facilitators will actually also provide that mentoring to the hub mentors as well as to the mentees. And then your 4th dimension is coming from Rita as the program director. There's a advisory board and there's a group of experts that often also can come in and actually provide support and content throughout the hubs. So in your role as a hub mentor, one of the things is to kind of be listening to some of the things that your group may be needing, and it might be access to somebody who knows about social media, legal or operations. So there's a whole plethora of experts and skilled people out there that are part of either within our network or on the advisory board that can come in and actually support the hub mentors as well. Hub mentees as well. So of course, we've got to do a bit of a sell job because there's the statistics. There's not a lot of women who like to step up into these roles. So I sort of thought it would be really good to share with you some key reasons why. It would be an absolutely awesome opportunity for you to come on as a hub mentor. I think I have the philosophy of lifelong learning. I'm still doing a PhD at my age, which I think is crazy, but I love learning. And quite frankly, I've learned the most from being in a mentor role, whether that's formal and informal. So I think, if anything, you'll get an opportunity to learn. By actually working in that role as mentor, you will learn as much from the people in your group and the people that you're supporting, as well as your hub facilitator and the program director and the experts that come in. So it's a very unique opportunity to sort of tap into a whole range of experiences and human capital skills. You'll get to build your skills and influence in leadership. So, one of my experiences when I first moved to Port Hedland was the challenge of actually not, I was working on my own and I was quite isolated within that role until I actually built a team around me. So ultimately you get a bit of a virtual team and you get to hook into sort of a broad network of a group to practice your leadership skills and your influence skills. It's sort of like a Shark Tank reality. You get to get in and actually use some of those skills or the things that you're actually learning. You can also learn a lot about yourself, and you get to go back and review what you're doing with your own business, depending on where you are in the stage of your own business startup and your networks and things like that. You'll also get a fresh outlook. We do know that we do get very, sometimes when we're living in remote and regional areas and we're actually not getting out to networks for various reasons, husband's working away, you can't get childcare, so often you're working from home. Getting exposed to the people through this virtual network will actually provide a new outlet for you on your own journey forward. And you get to build a significant network socially, not just in your regional area, but with women that are experiencing the same things statewide and potentially Australia-wide. So I hope we've sold you on that. So what is mentoring? If you Google it, there's about 5 pages of what is mentoring. But I think ultimately for the purpose of the WiRE program, mentoring for us is very much about a collaborative approach. It's about building a mutually beneficial partnership, and particularly in the WiRE program, because you're actually working in a group of 6, potentially about the size of the group. It's going to be very much about joint outcomes and actually ultimately joint accountability. The WiRE Hub is a 12-week program initially that you'll actually get on a call every week, and you'll be setting some goals and intentions as part of the group, and your role as a hub mentor would be to actually support that process and actually ensuring that group drives accountability through a collaboratively mutually beneficial partnership. And as a hub leader or hub mentor, a key role is to try and draw out some of those skills, experiences, and using your leadership skills to actually increase that of your mentees. So as I already said, it's a partnership, but ultimately the view or the intention gain is that it's about that mutual learning. So working together to achieve outcomes. Now, whilst in some of your experiences in mentoring and coaching, it's very much been a one-on-one given advice, whereas you're actually working in a group. So what's unique in this group is the group gets to share ideas, but also the individual is ultimately taking content away and actually applying that to their business, and then coming back each week and actually sharing their growth within the hub. So 5 myths about mentoring, and then maybe this is why maybe there's not as many women choosing to take on formal mentoring roles. But particularly, in the past, the view of mentoring has been very much in the corporate environment. It's not a significant thing that happens hasn't in the past happened in an entrepreneurial environment. It's very often a more formal approach in the corporate sector. But particularly for us regional women, maybe this is why we don't get involved in mentoring as much, but it's particularly often viewed that it's going to go for forever, and it's more particularly on a face-to-face basis. That's not necessarily true now with the age of NBN and the rise of access to internet and virtual platforms, and particularly in the WiRE program. You get to mentor for 12 weeks. Ultimately, that informal mentoring may go on for a bit longer, and it's all done virtually. In saying that, and I'll talk about this a bit later on, there'll be opportunities to create forums and localised mentoring groups potentially outside of the WiRE program that might come from boot camps and face-to-face groups within certain regional areas. The view historically has that mentors have to be older and more experienced. One of my greatest mentors, and currently still is a 21-year-old, and I have learnt more from him in the last 12 months, and probably because he's a tech expert and I'm not, than I have from a lot of my other mentors in the past. And as I've already expressed in a previous slide, only the person being mentored gets benefits, and that's not true. Actually, as a mentor, I've learned more. I always feel like I'm, it's a bit one-sided, because ultimately, a lot of the time when I'm mentoring, I actually learn more from the person and watching their growth and their journey. And this is possibly one of the reasons why we don't get a lot of people jumping into a mentor role, is because there's a view that it actually decreases your own productivity and your own performance. If you take on the view that the role of mentoring is from a learning approach, and that view of lifelong learning and mutual learning, much of what the mentee is going to learn, or the group is going to learn, you'll actually take back and can apply to your own business. And here's what's an interesting one, and I'm going to share this, and I'm not sure if it was posted on Facebook, but there's a fabulous TED Talk I'm going to share at the end. Obviously, I'm not going to play it because we don't have time, but I would recommend you get on and watch it. And I think from my experience, there's a lot of reasons why women don't step into a mentoring role is they think they've got to be finished. They think they have to achieve the outcome. They have to be done. They have to have, got to the end of their journey, or their entrepreneurial journey, or their experience, or that they're just particularly too busy because life is, they're still caring for kids and things like that. Once again, that's not the case. Actually, your shared experiences is actually what's going to be the value, particularly in that hub, and your experience as a leader in terms of group dynamics and getting people to connect and stay accountable for achieving their own outcomes is the key focus. A couple of sort of theoretical things, mentoring as a concept. So, and this really much does apply to the WiRE program. A mentor ultimately manages the relationship. And this, particularly for the WiRE program, is going to manage the group dynamics and how people work together, obviously setting some ground rules for the way the group communicate. Over the 12 weeks, you'll find that people will get a lot more familiar with each other and may chat, as women do. That's how we connect. So the mentor's role is very much about managing that relationship and encouraging particularly those that are more introverted in the hub to actually join in and have a conversation, share some of their learnings, some of their challenges. Hub mentor is, your hub mentor is very much a nurturer. A lot of, particularly women in remote and regional areas, you often feel isolated and often feel like you're the only one going through that. So this program is fantastic because it provides you that opportunity to learn that everybody else is often going through the same thing, and you can share how you're actually moving through some of those challenges. As part of the mentoring program, we'll be offering one-on-one opportunities for the hub mentor to be mentored by the hub facilitators and by Rita. So you'll be learning, obviously, content and theory, but you also have the opportunity to teach that back to people within your hub group. That's ultimately mentoring as a concept. Some facts about why mentoring is important. I certainly couldn't have got where I've got today without mentors, and didn't think that I needed any more, but I still keep finding amazing mentors in my life that help me move forward and learn that next phase in my business journey. It's interesting that, there's some couple of stats there on the screen about the performance outcome in people's businesses or their entrepreneurial journey is increased, exponentially by having a mentor, whether that's a formal or informal mentor. Okay, so once again, a lot of your experience may have been more one-on-one mentoring or specifically coaching within the corporate environment. If you come from a corporate environment, the approach of the WiRE mentoring is quite different. It's very much a group mentoring approach. And looking at multiple development, it's less personable. In saying that, by the end of your 12-week journey, you're probably going to know your hub members quite well. Ultimately, you're aiming for the same. Whilst you're actually in a group and you're actually doing group mentoring, there's still a lot of actually individual intentions that's actually occurring within this. So you're working on a common goal of accountability within the hub, but you'll be also driving individual accountability and goals for their specific business that they want to achieve within that 12 weeks. So why is group mentoring in the WiRE different? And this is kind of what I was just saying before around the fact that you're getting that, we've got this 4-dimensional mentoring, but you've got that individual development but you're bringing in multiple learners and experts. So you'll get also an opportunity to learn from the broader hub. So within, you'll have the 6 that the hub mentor will be supporting, but then all the groups will also come into the larger hub, which the hub facilitator will support. So it's a very dynamic, very rich, very moving environment for people to actually be learning, and actually achieve some outcomes. So each week we'll be setting some outcomes and working on particular parts of our journey within the hub. Okay, so some differences between formal and informal mentoring. Teachers are everywhere, and people that don't think they're teachers are actually the best teachers in the world. Informal mentoring, generally it happens without a plan, without structure. A lot of the time I've had many informal mentoring sessions with a peer over coffee, and it could be just be lamenting a specific issue in my business. More formal mentoring, which is what the hub program is very much about, is actually achieving outcomes. And in each week, the mentees will be required to turn up into the sessions, into the hubs, and actually define some outcomes and actually measure what those are and what they've actually gone to do in terms of their intentions, and and what are the challenges they've experienced. And so the group and the hub mentor will be supporting them in that process and providing additional training or knowledge, or potentially bringing in an expert or a subject matter specialist into the next hub meeting to actually provide that support they might need to achieve the outcomes they've set for themselves across the hub. So some of the key components of a good mentoring program. There's ultimately, you're looking for some very deliberate learning. In my experience of being in many, many women's networks, as I'm sure many of you have been, is one of our challenges is we all like to talk. And so you get a group of 6 women in a virtual environment that potentially are a little bit isolated because they live in rural and regional areas, is that they like to talk. Now, there's some fantastic informal sharing that actually happens in that process, but the idea of the hubs is that you're also going to be taking what you learned potentially in the boot camps, in the content workshops that are a part of the WiRE program, and actually applying them within the hub program as part of a deliberate learning to actually achieve your outcomes. And there will be failures as part of this program, and that's okay, because the idea of this hub mentor is to support your team or your group of people through those failures, but also celebrate the successes. And often, as I said, on your own, you don't get to do that all the time. You have a little quiet champagne at the end of the evening because you've achieved something in your business. You get on your hub group and share that with your group each week. Now, one of the key fundamentals that we're going to take a deep dive in workshop 1 is actually looking at storytelling. One of the fastest way for a brain to learn and actually engage into a concept is actually through stories. And I work in one of my other businesses and my other lives is I actually work with children. And children obviously respond to stories better than adults, and adults think it's silly, but actually storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to actually share information and to learn. So as a mentor, sharing your stories is really important, and sharing your experiences on your journey, as much as actually encouraging your mentees to actually share their stories, is really important. The development of the group will actually mature over time, and you'll find that some of the initial conversations will be more about that, your standard group dynamics of getting to know each other. And once again, we're going to cover this in the workshop 1 and actually deep dive in that and have a conversation around that. The development of the group and its maturity in terms of outcomes will actually develop over the course of that 12-week cycle in the hub as well. Okay. Some key components around the mentoring framework is, and really what as a hub mentor you would, or any mentor within a group, is you'd be wanting to drive is some of these 3 key components within your hub. As I've already said a number of times, the value of the 12-week program of the hub will be about accountability and achieving outcomes. So, through that support network of the hub, the key will be to actually challenge participants to, question why, if they haven't done what they said they were going to commit to, think about ways to actually inspire them to move forward. And some of the content and theory in the workshops that we'll cover will give you some tools that you can actually do when you start to experience this potentially in your hubs, and to also create more synergetic, purposeful conversations within that hub conversation. Okay, so some of the key foundations of mentoring is, and this is actually interesting, I'm discovering this as part of my research in PhD, is actually looking at the key defining factors in social capital. And one of the questions that I'm actually examining is, does the increase in social capital increase the performance of a woman's business in remote, or entrepreneurial journey in remote and regional areas? And some of the key components that actually exist within social capital also exist in terms of outcomes in mentoring, which is interesting because it's all about how people connect. Mutual trust, we're going to actually look into what is trust, and we even potentially look at what drives trust, the neuroscience of trust within the workshops that we're going to cover, and actually give you some specific tools that you can actually apply to quickly use within the group to actually build mutual trust and to get people together. Fundamentally, we are humans and we are fundamentally animals, and we actually connect quite well through face-to-face and actually looking at people's facial responses. Now, on your hubs, you'll have the opportunity to do that through Zoom. So we're going to look at ways to actually try and drive the development of mutual trust through a virtual environment. And you'll learn some of those tools within the workshop. One of the key focuses is to have regular contact and conversation within the hub. Obviously, you do that every week, but I'm going to just touch on it at the end of the webinar. Another component of the WiRE program is our hub for us, our WiRE forums, where we get to actually share across all the members of the WiRE program, and not just within our own hub. So I'm going to share with you that is a very integral part of the success of the WiRE program. And as a mentor, your role will be to very much encourage the use of those forums and the sharing of information, not just within the group, but across the whole WiRE network. Another core component of your role as the mentor is to actually support that people are engaging into this process. And as we've said, the outcomes of the hub is to actually achieve outcomes and be accountable for their own outcomes throughout that process. So a great mentor supports that process. It inspires the person to actually, or a mentee, to actually get involved in the process. And my experience, that's not so easy when you've got if you have an introverted mentee. Your extroverts, if anything, they jump in and they're highly engaged in the process, but your introverts are often to put it on mute and just listen to the conversation, and they might take 3 or 4 weeks to actually get engaged. So your role as a mentor is to try and support that engagement into the process and the belief that there's going to be an outcome. To be honest with you, there's a lot of views out there of mentoring programs that they're just another talk fest and they don't create outcomes. And as I said, I have experienced a lot of that in previous mentoring programs, and I'm highly confident, and I actually know that the WiRE program won't be like that, because I think its foundations and its frameworks and its ecosystems actually are set up to create these foundations of mentoring and also achieving outcomes. And ultimately, the intention is to help people grow, and I think you help people will grow just through the conversations that will happen within the hub environments. Well, this is a very wordy slide. Be mindful of the fact that a lot of the stuff that's going in this webinar, we're actually going to take and pull apart in the workshops. So they're really just there for you as well as a reference when you actually get into the mentoring role, and you kind of go, well, what were they talking about as some of the key components, or what am I missing? Why isn't this group coming together? Obviously, you'll have the opportunity to connect with a mentor on your own for your own growth, but you'll also have this content to be able to come back to and actually go and remind yourself about some things in terms of driving your supporting your group to develop. So we've kind of touched on some of these things, but ultimately the key for great mentoring is actually about aligning synergy, You're both there to learn. If you have that the group is there to learn. And if you have that shared outcome, there's not a lot that can go wrong if you're there to learn. And one of the key components, I think, in particularly in synergy and relationship, is actually being curious. One of the hardest skills as we become older is we lose the ability to be curious. Kids are infinitely curious. So I think, if anything, as a mentor, one of your greatest skills is to actually hold that view of curiosity and, learning from the people that you're actually working with. And once again, we'll actually look at some of the core biological responses for actually being curious and for taking a learning approach in the workshops. And I guess that part of that curiousness is valuing the uniqueness of everybody within the group, and their skills and the history that they're coming to the group, and just how much that can actually build a richer, more stronger outcome in terms of what the individuals are achieving within their businesses. Just a little quote there to break it up, but mentoring is ultimately your brain to pick. It's an ear to listen and a push in the right direction. And I've said it a number of times in this, but we learned from neuroscience that you have to say something at least 30 times before people actually remember it. So hopefully, if I keep saying it, you'll remember it. And a lot of people have gone further than they ever thought they could, just because someone else thought they could. And as women, we are our worst champions, and we're our own worst champions. Not specifically generally we champion our friends and our very well, but we don't champion ourselves. So sometimes it's just fantastic to have somebody there to support you and go, I believe in you, and I celebrate the things that you've actually achieving. And that's our intention, our core component of an intention within the WiRE hubs. And coming back to that concept of sharing your stories, a lot of people don't know what they don't know. So as part of these conversations, just facilitating the conversation when you're as a mentor is often not enough. Sometimes you need to actually get in and share a story about your experiences, the skills that you've actually gained through going through those experiences. And so as a mentor, it's important that you actually have some of these little stories in your playbook that you can actually share as part of the conversation through the mentor program. So in the meantime, between now and when the hub starts and you're really keen because you're really excited to be a mentor, have a think about some stories that you can share. I mean, have you been coached formally or informally? Have you been a mentor or have you been mentored? And what experiences did you gain from that? What were some of the things that mentor and that coach did to support you to gain and be the best you can be? Because they're the stories that will supremely help you in your mentoring journey. Okay, so this is just to give you a very broad view of some of the skills and the content that we're actually going to cover in the 2 workshops. As I said, the next 2 workshops are going to be way more interactive. I struggle to be a talking head because I'm high I. I'm very much an extrovert. So standing here talking to myself on a computer is very challenging for me. So I'm very much looking forward to workshop 1 and workshop 2. And as I said, you will have a workbook that we will work through. We will have a conversation. In workshop 2, we're actually going to, don't we all love role play? We're actually going to go through a little activity. We will actually do a little bit of a group facilitation virtually, because for some of you, you may never have functioned within that environment where you're actually doing a group facilitation through a virtual platform. Because of delays in internet, sometimes that creates a different dynamic within the group. So we're going to do some of those things in workshop 2. From a perspective of what creates an effective mentor, we've touched on some of these things, but it really requires common sense. And it indicates that the research has indicated that mentors and mentees who develop and manage successful mentoring partnerships demonstrate specific skills to develop that learning, create better outcomes. So on that note of specific identifiable skills, these are some of the things that we're actually going to be focusing on within the workshop 1 and 2. There's been many models around of mentoring skills, but I think this is one of the better ones that I have found. And within the workshop, we're also going to look at obviously mentee-specific skills, and some of the other workshops and webinars that we're running within the WiRE program do address some of these. But this series is specifically about you and supporting your growth as a mentor. So this model looks at some of the shared skills that a mentee and a mentor, and obviously we have the complexity of actually a mentor group as well, to create positive outcomes. But the circle on the right looks at some of the specific skills that you need to develop and I guess use consistently within your mentoring journey. So in mentoring workshop 1, we'll be looking at some of the shared core skills and look at, well, what does building trust actually mean? Most people think they know it, but what are some of the fundamental components of how you actually build trust? Active listening. You know, some of you may have done courses in active listening. A friend of mine just did a 3-day course in it, and she said she learned so much more about active listening than what she thought she knew. Once again, we're very good at not knowing what we don't know. Encouraging, identifying goals, making some sense of our current reality. So that'll be the first things that we concentrate on. And then we'll be looking at breaking down some of these other core skills within workshop 2. And very much looking at storytelling and practicing some of these virtual mentoring skills within workshop 2. Okay, so it's very similar to what is a great mentor, but in specifically to the WiRE Hub, some of the key roles that you'll be actually doing is very much that accountability. You're in a hub for 12 weeks and actually working and supporting the hub members to actually set and achieve their goals and the outcomes and intentions that they want to achieve within that 12-week cycle. Now, it could be something very simple. It depends on where the mentee will be within their journey in their business. They might simply just be at ideas stage, and you may have other members in the group that are a couple of years in. They've got a proof of product, they've launched it to market, they've got a very big market, and they might want to take it to a new market or create a new product. So they're going to be very different conversations within the group. So as I said, the key role of the hub mentor is actually to support that accountability and actually drive the connection between the different levels of the group. Just back to the things you're trying to achieve every 12 weeks is potentially someone who's just got an idea might just simply want to aim at the end of that 12 weeks to have a clearer picture of what their business idea might be, or simply get a logo or a business plan to go to the bank for funding or to seek funding. Whereas somebody who's actually been going for a couple of years might be looking to design and develop and launch a new product, but want some of the fundamental plan behind that to achieve, and they want to create that in that 12-week period. So there could be quite different accountabilities and intentions within the group. So because of that, there's going to be quite interesting group dynamics in each of the groups. So your role as hub mentor is looking at how to actually manage group dynamics. Now, you're very fortunate that our WiRE Hub director, Rita, is an expert in this space, and so if anybody's needing help in that area, I'm sure she'll be more than happy to mentor you once you're in. And that's the thing about these workshops is it's all great to learn theory, but you need to get in and practice and see what type of people that you're working with. And it's often during the 12 weeks that you're actually going to need more support for you as a mentor. Whilst these are your responsibilities or your role as a hub mentor, they're also ours in terms of supporting you. So guidance, obviously, making sure people are actually working through the things they need to work through, and facilitating discussion and learning within the group, and making sure it's staying on task, because ultimately you only go through a very short window, probably 40 minutes within the hour of the hub, or maybe even less, possibly 20 or 30 minutes, that you're actually with those 6 people, and then they come back into the wider hub group for a broader discussion. So I guess the key thing to also remember from a guideline perspective is, as a hub mentor, your job isn't to actually make decisions for people. Part of the process for learning as a mentor, or sorry, as a mentee, is that they have to actually go through that journey of applying and, you know, often learning from their mistakes. Also being mindful of the fact that some of your mentees are going to be in a very, you know, this could be very new for them. This could be a very new place. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, series of successes and some successes but many failures. And, you know, so I'm kind of a bit more hardened through my process, but there'll be a lot of them that actually have just started their journey. And this is a really uncomfortable space for them to be. I actually call that the elixir of life. I think being out of a comfort zone is the most beautiful place to actually learn if they have the courage to stay there and actually feel the pain and actually go through the journey. So your role as a hub mentor is to support them to go through the journey and to learn, rather than make decisions for them about their business, or micromanage, you know, that they haven't done the things that they said they were going to do. And the other thing is it's, you know, we can have these conversations further down the track once we get experience, but the hub mentor isn't there to kind of take over the conversation. It's very much about creating those shared outcomes within the hub process. Okay, so here's one of the key components of the WiRE program is the WiRE forums. I mentioned this at the start of the webinar. So the WiRE forums are on the website. I don't think it's currently live yet, but there'll be forums for each. You can basically go in and create your own forums. There'll be forums that will be for each specific hub. There'll be forums for maybe specific topics. So there might be a forum on social media. There might be a forum on seeking finance for your business, or getting logos made, or whatever. So the forums are designed as a conversational piece and a place for a check-in and a connection between when you have your hub sessions, whether that's from hub group to hub mentor, or to hub facilitator, or to the WiRE director and other experts. It's this connection that actually is what will drive outcome. I think it's one of the most important components of the program. And actually, for those of you that have been involved with forums in the past, most of them traditionally have been on Facebook. You know, most people live on Facebook and on their phones, and sorry for those that don't, but most do. You know, a lot of those conversations actually now occur through social media, and this forum will provide an opportunity for those conversations to continue between the hub sessions. And you know, because often something might happen in a meeting, or you might wake up which is what I always do, wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with a thought and an idea, and I go, I've got to record that. I've got to put that out to the group and see what they think, or the challenge that it's keeping me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, and kind of share and gain feedback. Now, you may not expect people to respond at 2 o'clock in the morning. Quite possibly entrepreneurial women in regional areas are awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. But people, once you put that thought there, people can actually get back to you and respond and provide opportunities for ideas that you can work through, and you don't have to wait until the following week for you as a mentor to address some of those things. You can actually do that through the forums. So yeah, on the website there'll be a process for how you actually sign up to the forums once that page is launched, and you'll be asked a series of questions to come into the forum. So it'll be things like, what's your big idea? What's your intentions to achieve out of the hub program? And start to build some of that social connection within the broader WiRE network. Okay, I think I'm close to, oh, look at that, close to running out of time. I've got 5 minutes. So this is the TED Talk I was talking about at the start. If any of you have ever come across, well, if you haven't come across TED Talks, hopefully you're going to be much more exposed to them over this program. TED is a deep dive into the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland. It has some of the most amazing short concepts for you to actually learn from, and anything you could possibly think of. But this is one of my favourite ones. This is by a lady by the name of Dame Stephanie Shirley. Dame Shirley is actually a refugee, or was a refugee going to the UK, and she arrived on a train in the UK and had nothing. And in the 1960s, launched her own tech company, and a female founder of a tech company in the 1960s. That was unheard of. And she grew her business to $30 billion within not many years, about 10 or 15 years. And then what she did was she literally just gave shares to her 70 staff members, who were, I think at that point, 100% female. She didn't have any males working for her at that point. And she basically surpassed Steve Jobs during that time. He obviously then took over from there. And she really upended the expectations of women during that time. And she did it through helping other women and believing in herself. And she says in the talk about how mentors are really an integral part of her life and her growth. And, you know, during that time, they were mostly men. And so she gave back. And, you know, she also makes a comment, not specifically in these words, but she didn't need to wait to be finished to be a mentor. She didn't have to achieve a certain standard of expectation of herself before she decided she had to be a mentor. She stepped in and did it early because she knew she would learn more from them. So if you haven't watched it, I think I would highly recommend it. I think it would be, it's a nice little motivator and inspiring TED Talk to watch in terms of, you know, what you could be one day if you want to, both as a mentor and as an entrepreneur. And, you know, her story is quite enriching for the soul. Just going back, just to close out, I once again just want to share, you know, just a reminder back to this WiRE mentoring ecosystem. As I said, this is what's unique, I think, about this program. It's not linear, it's four-dimensional. You know, the reason that graphic was designed like that because it's not in a circle. You know, you can go peer to peer, peer to director, hub mentor to mentee. You know, there's so many ways of actually connecting into a very rich network of knowledge, skills and experience within this WiRE program. And it's through that I think we'll create social capital and create not just an outcome in this first round of hubs, but actually for entrepreneurial women in general. So I hope we've got you interested, and if we've got any questions, I think Rita's going to kind of ask them, and hopefully we've inspired you enough to come back to the next two workshops at least.
Tara, thank you very, very much for that session on kickstarting your mentoring experience. I would like to just address a few questions here that came through, and I'll quickly run through them. The first question is, how do you determine at the end of the bootcamp, and Tara, maybe I can answer some of these, and then maybe you can just come in as well. Yep. How do you determine at the end of the bootcamp who each mentor will be linked with as mentees, based on what skills or expertise, etc.? Okay, we are currently by the end of this week, beginning next week, we will be opening up and we'll be starting to recruit members for the hubs, and we also will start recruiting mentors for the hubs. And when you sign up for a hub, you can also indicate whether you're willing to become a mentor, etc. So then we also have the boot camps. We've got a boot camp coming up in Chinchilla on the 17th and 18th of August. We've got 1st and 2nd September in Kingaroy, and I think it's the 14th or 15th of October in Gladstone.
That's right.
Yeah, so we've got the boot camps as well. So in terms of determining, you know, at the end of a boot camp or at the end of this recruitment drive in relation to the hubs, we will know, you know, at this stage, we have no idea how many women will apply to be in hubs. We have no idea who's going to really put their names forward to be mentors. Once we have the names, we have the background, and we ask some questions also when you actually register to become part of a hub and to register to become part of a mentor. We ask a lot of details about you, and the mentees provide a lot of details around them as well. And we, as a WiRE panel, will sit and link, we have different time slots. So I guess, first of all, in terms of time slots, mentees will basically nominate for whatever time slot suit them. But we will then sit as a panel, a WiRE panel, to determine which members will be in a hub in particular time slots. So it could be that on a Monday evening between 7 and 8, for example, you may have 5 hubs running during that time slot, and you will be allocated as a hub member to a particular group, and also the mentor will be allocated to a particular group according to the mentor skills, but also according to the group skills. So it's difficult for me to answer this in black and white at this stage, because this for us is a learning experience as well, and we want to try and create a best fit as possible. Also, in terms of after the boot camps, there will be a number of groups, for instance, from Chinchilla, that will want to move forward into these hubs as well. But I guess I can't specifically say at this stage, how the matching will take place. That will happen through a panel. The second question, if the initial plan is to run our mentor hubs 1 hour each week for 12 weeks, but the women each learn differently and have their own agendas, do you envisage that realistically there will be more time committed to each individual mentor, in addition to 1 hour per week for the hub as a whole? The answer to that is that I guess peer mentorship is probably the main aspect of the hubs, whereas the hub mentor, will act as a facilitator and at times as a mentor. And that's why we don't just want a facilitator in the hub without knowing much about mentorship or knowing the principles of mentorship or what could possibly happen in the hub. However, in terms of the hubs, every individual hub member will have a particular goal or intention at the beginning of the 12 weeks. So over 12 weeks, they will work on that particular goal to reach that goal within that 12-week period. Every week, they will come to the hub and they will share lessons. There will be peer sharing in terms of how they're going with reaching their goals, what went really hard this week, and then the others can come in and help them with it. And the mentor will be really there in that hour to make sure everything runs according to, a facilitated process. So it's not just a chit-chat group for an hour and nothing has been achieved. So in terms of the hub mentors themselves, we won't be asking or requiring of them to do more mentoring besides that hour. And I guess, this is a voluntary role as well, so we can't realistically expect that either. The next question then is also here, what happens to the hub at the end of the 12 weeks? Is there further ongoing support available to the mentees from the WiRE program? I guess this whole program has been co-created by our particular audience. And really, this will also be a co-creation process during the hub process over the 12 weeks to see what ongoing support will be needed after the hub. What do the hubs really require in terms of after the 12 weeks? It's not something we want to push on the hubs at this stage. It'll be co-created by the hubs. The next question is, how do you find and determine the mentees? Will each hub group have a varied level of business stages? Will they all be grouped into beginners, just an idea, establishing a business, fully established, etc.? Or will each group be a varied group of both? The answer to this one is it will be a varied group. We as hub as WiRE program team, really after all the pop-ups and all the suggestions and so forth in terms of how to put the hubs together, in terms of practicality, we've decided to go on time slots because realistically women will be able to either join early morning, maybe mid-morning, or at night. So it will be, so the hubs, they will join that according to a time slot. Therefore, you may have women as part of the hub that may be beginning stages of a startup, and some would already have a business and be wanting to grow up and scale up. But that doesn't really matter. Actually, the diversity of the group will be very positive because there will be a range of different learnings that can take place. Why I say it doesn't really matter that you do have a diverse group is that, unlike other mentoring programs sometimes, in this particular program, you are focused on your goal. So you focus on your individual growth. We're not trying to reach a group goal here. We're trying to help you to go from point A to point B over a 12-week period with peer support, with a facilitator/mentor in the group, with overall facilitators, but also as part of these hubs, we will invite external mentors to come in when it's needed. And we will invite external experts to come in when that is needed as well. So yes, so it will be diverse groups, but ultimately every individual will be working on their own individual goal. Next question, these are very, very good questions. Thank you for those. The next one is, what is the level of accountability for the mentors? If I advise a mentee to explore process A, for example, and it doesn't work for them, or there are ramifications or ideas/business/financial/policy loss, etc., where does that leave us as mentors who gave the advice in the first place? I guess in the role of a mentor, it's probably not going to be about giving advice. It's about helping and facilitating individuals or mentees to look at various options and then actually make a decision for themselves. Because a mentor usually have possibly more experience in a particular area from own experience. So you can really only share from your own experience what have worked for you. But you cannot go and give specific advice and say, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do that. That is not going to be the role of the mentor. And that's really not the role of any mentor relationship that I've been in. Usually what they do is open up options and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? Maybe this worked really well for me, but ultimately the mentee will have to make the decision so that the mentor won't be responsible for whatever decision the mentee make at the end of the day. The next question, and Tara, you can come in once I'm just quickly through these questions. Is there or are there any details somewhere regarding how the women link up with us and what information, so with the mentors, and what information they provide us with? Do we need to find the time to be assisting with developing 6 business plans in 12 weeks, etc.? The answer to this is no. You will be, if you join up as a mentor, in the first session will be very much around establishing norms. And also at that stage, we will have all the information of each mentee already, because they will provide that information when they enroll in the 12-week program. And we also have the mentor information. So that information will already be available, and they will also introduce themselves in that first hub session. So it's also not the task of the mentor to actually do things for the mentees either. It is simply the task to facilitate, to reflect, to help mentees to think about choices and options rather than to give advice and do things for them. For example, case in point, it may be that one mentee actually her goal may be to develop a business plan in the next 12 months. So that may be what that individual will do over that 12 months period. Another mentee may be wanting to develop a marketing strategy in 12 months, 12 weeks. Or it could be that I, and I'm currently starting with an ebook, that I may say, okay, well, this is an ideal opportunity for myself to actually write this ebook in 12 weeks. And I have a whole group of peers holding me accountable to actually do it and get myself into getting it and getting it done. But ultimately, yes, the mentor won't be doing things for the mentees. They will be doing that for themselves. We had another comment here that says, this is an amazing initiative. Thank you. What time commitment do you estimate a mentor need to dedicate to the program / the hub? Realistically, it will be 1 hour per week, depending on what time slot would suit you as a mentor. And the website will be opened, or the web page will be functional by this week, and you will receive a notice on that as well. So you can go and have a look at all the different time slots, and you can also enroll as a mentor, as a hub member, etc. In terms of time commitment, Tara mentioned also that we have forums. So apart from that 1 hour together face-to-face in a virtual hub, there will then also be a forum for the hub. So during the week, women in the hub can converse with each other, can post things, can share ideas. So, for example, if I'm in a hub and maybe, somebody's working on a business plan, and that's something that, I do a lot with my students because I teach entrepreneurship. I've got some amazing documents on business plans. So I can share that with them, with her on the forum, or with the rest as well. So it's about sharing on the forum. It's about peer, I guess, exchange. It's about helping each other. But most of all, I think it's about support. Peer-to-peer mentoring is about support, but I think the role of the mentor, of the hub mentor, is also about supporting and positively, I guess, supporting just the mindset of mentees to help them know that, hey, they can actually do it. So I guess what time commitment the mentor will have to allocate, it's definitely the 1 hour a week to the hub. And then it depends really whether how much time you want to spend on the forums during the week. It may be that you want to go on, every night and maybe make a post. Or if you don't have time, you don't really have to do that, because you're going to have 6 women in that hub that's going to converse anyway. As the mentor, I just want to mention as well, as the role of the mentor as well, we as program team will ask the mentors to also share some, or showcase the work of in your hub. So something that's my role very, very strong in this program is to showcase. So I would like to know from mentors, and I will be connecting with mentors, to just kind of put me in touch with those women that you think is ready to be showcased, or they're doing some amazing stuff. I want to get that out to the rest of the WiRE community as well and share that out. So we will be in contact as well. But it won't be a lot more time than just that 1 hour a week potentially, or if you want to provide more time, obviously you're very welcome to do that. Then another question here, as the mentor, if you're a mentor, do we receive the information that the mentees provide at the time of application? We will be working through that information. If there's any personal information or confidential information, that won't be shared, because it's really up to the mentee whether they want to share that with the rest of the group or the mentor. But you as a mentor will receive the background information, general background information, etc. And also in that first session, it will be very clear what each individual will be working on in the next 12 weeks, because they will be sharing that themselves. So you will have enough information to actually start thinking, hey, how can I support that particular member on that? But ultimately, I guess your biggest role during the 12-week would be during that 1 hour session, just to make sure that that 1 hour is jam-packed with real productivity, with real sharing, and it's not, and it's actually really focused upon achieving and helping each other to achieve each other's goals. There's another one that just came in here. I would love to be a mentor, but I can also see value in being a mentee. Is it possible to be mentor of one hub and a mentee in another hub, or is it that frowned upon a conflict of interest? You can actually be a mentor in one hub, but you can also be a mentee. If you're a mentee or you're a hub member, you will link into the facilitator the next level above. So if, for instance, myself or with Tara or Joy Taylor, who will be running another hub. So it will be our role then to actually work, or just provide you with advice, but you will also be, so you can be a mentee, but you can also be a mentor, but you will also have the benefit to get the rest of the mentees in the group, get their views. And, it's just amazing how much when somebody else look at the same problem through a different lens, sometimes it just opens up everything, and it opens up new visions to various aspects. Okay, well, we've come to the end of the webinar. Tara,
sorry, Rita, there's just a couple of questions on the chat. Very quickly. There's, is the program for mentees that do not have internet or computer access?
Yes, that absolutely. If you don't have computer access, if you don't have computer access, that's not a problem. We use the Zoom platform through the university, through USQ. So you can also link in via landline. You obviously can link it through a mobile if you wanted to, but you can link it through a landline. So and you will still be able to hear everybody in the group. You can participate in the group as you normally would when you're live on the chat. It may be even that, one of the, I had one woman talking to me about this and said to me the other day, she's not actually ready to actually share her face with anybody else, but she wants to be part of a hub. I said, yeah, that's okay. You can still link in and you don't really have to be visible, your face. It's really, we're not going to actually push anybody to use the full interactivity of the hub. It's obviously, good if you can, but certainly being regional, rural, remote areas, sometimes you just want to...
We work in our pajamas many times.
You want to link in with a landline, and you can still get the full benefit of the group.
One last question there. Is there, and I can answer this one if you like, but is there a facilitation plan for the 12 weeks for the mentor?
We will be working on that in the next few weeks before the hubs start. So all of these questions very, very helpful to us as well to kind of think, okay, what are the other things that we need to think about? Therefore, I would really appreciate it if you can email us. And the email address is on the website. If there's any other good ideas or suggestions you want to put forward, let us know, because we're in the process of doing that now, and then the rest of it will be co-created with you as well. So just another question here, how are the mentees aligned to this group? How do they sign up, know this is available? I work full-time, usually 8:30 till 5:30. Love that hours of flexibility. This has been the only concern. Thanks for clarifying. Is there any program for mentees that do not have internet? Yeah, so that one. So in relation to the sign-up, yes, there's different time slot. It will be one from, I don't have it right in front of me, but you'll be able to see that on the website. I think it's on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning from 6 till 7.
Monday that was, and then Tuesday at 10 and Tuesday at 6 at night.
That's right.
Or 7 at night it might be.
So you can just slot in whatever time suits you there. So there's definite flexibilities there. The web page will go live, possibly even today, and we will be really recruiting widely, so it'll go out to all our over 300 subscribers. We'll email them and invite them to come to the webpage and sign up as a hub mentor, but also on that same page, if you do want to become a mentor, that's where you also sign up as a mentor. So that's the WiRE Hubs page on the website, on our website, where you can go. We will also be sending the invitation out to everybody that signed up for the mentor for this particular webinar today. And then we have 2 more workshops coming up on mentorship. That's really in-depth workshops, because I think mentorship for us as women is not just about this program. Our aim is to actually build an ecosystem of helping other women in regional, rural, remote areas. That's what we're all about. And this programs really to kickstart that. So whatever mentorship you're picking up in this program, and whether you're linking later on become a mentor of the Queensland Government in their Mentorship for Growth program, or if you become an informal mentor in your community or a formal mentor in your organization, it doesn't really matter. It's all about helping other women succeed. So whatever skills you're going to pick up in the workshop is not just for this program. If you just want to join because you want to become a better mentor, please do that as well. You don't have to join the program to be a mentor. Tara, anything last words from you?
No, I think there's some fantastic questions there. That was exactly what we wanted. And just for that, on that note of facilitation plan, I had actually been developing a bit of a framework for some of the key components that we might be covering, and that's something we're finalising in the next week. Yeah. So that we would cover that in workshop 1, hopefully. That would be my intention of the mentoring workshop.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for everyone that joined us today. I think I have probably met most of you in the regional innovation pop-ups. Very much looking forward to working with you as well. You will have access also to me when you're part of a hub, even though you may have a hub mentor and you have a hub facilitator, etc. Certainly, you will also have access to the WiRE team. Okay, so I think that's I think that's it. That's about it. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you very soon again. The hubs will kick off. I think it's that week of the 4th of September. So there's going to be a lot of activity happening in the next few weeks to get everybody on board into the hubs, enrolled as mentors, etc. But it's a great program. I'm so enjoying what I'm doing. Tara's enjoying what she's doing, and everybody on the team is just loving it. And thanks for your contribution, because we're going to draw heavily on you as well if you put your hand up, just your expertise, and help us co-create an amazing program. I'll talk to you soon, and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Bye.